Souvenir. Ta-da! Okay, hi everybody. I hope everybody's having a good day. It's 3 Prompt Tuesday. It's 2 Prompt Tuesday. It's 3 Prompt Tuesday, and we've got some prompts from our stream yesterday that we're going to incorporate today. I'm looking for the note. I got the note. I have the note. So we'll figure out what these are and get started. In the meantime, this is today's page that I posted. The suggestion was a car accident. So that is what I've come up with. Yes, it's illustrating a car accident, but I was trying to talk about yesterday during the stream that you can illustrate one aspect, but you can have your narrative be a completely different aspect of an idea. And in this context, while the images are of a car accident, yes, the text is actually talking about people seeing light at the end of the tunnel, their life flash before their eyes, and those climactic moments. So that's what the gist of the page was yesterday. So with that in mind, I hope everybody got a kick out of that page. I initially drew it in mixed media, and then I put it into the robot and applied some of the digital Shamil, Hearts and Pepper incorporated to it. So, okay, yeah, 3 Prompt Tuesday. So I'm going to type in, I have the note here, 3 Prompt Tuesday. And I thank people for the suggestions yesterday. But, I don't know what I'm going to do with our Floyd the Barber, Ancient, and Castle. So, and they come from in Dan, Anne, and Paula. Okay, so there's our suggested 3 prompts for today. I'll put them up on the screen for those of you that aren't getting the chat there. So this is going to be an interesting one, but there's our 3 prompts. Floyd the Barber I count as a single prompt. It's, Barber just happens to be named Floyd. But Ancient and Castle. No, the reason I got the white screen up, this is today's page, in case there's a little more clarity for people to see it from the posting. I don't post the clean image like this on Facebook and Instagram because, that's anybody under the sun can just pilfer the image at that point. So that's why I have the overlap on it. I didn't do that with pages before, but I do it now. You can get the unblemished art like this on Patreon and as well as original blah, blah, blah. So today, however, I have got the clear screen up. Clear, nothing on it, unencumbered, look out. Because I thought, why don't we do something digital today? Now, with that in mind, let's start out by figuring out a frame of reference on this sucker. Now, the standard frame of reference that I do is usually a half inch from the outside edge. And that way, when the pages are assembled together, there's a uniformity to that. And so we'll just fill a line in here. And there we go. So we got our framework to work within. I think I'll double that up. Now, you can't see the steps that I'm taking. I can't figure out quite how to put all the little windows pop up, like color choices and pens and things like that. But I'll try to walk you through it while I do it, if that's of any benefit to people. Standard things apply today. If you've got one-page suggestions or ideas, you're more than welcome to suggest them at any point in time. If you don't feel comfortable doing that during the stream, you're more than welcome to do so in comments, or you can direct message me. I don't care. Whatever way's easiest for people. I get all kinds of different directions now. And if you've got stuff you want to say, this is a free space. You are more than welcome to say hi and chat and interject with your thoughts on whatever we're talking about in a given moment. Yeah, just anybody feel welcome to be a part of things. Also, if you want to talk about what you got going on and you're a creator as well, I open that opportunity up to you. If you're going to spam me, watch out. But if you're just, hey, I'm Chris, I'm doing this. I've taken up phlebotomy. Look it up. It's a fun one. Okay. So with that in mind, I have got the 2-fingered glove and my digital pen. I had to special order these suckers because the ones that you get with when you buy a tablet or whatnot, they didn't work for me. They weren't the right size for my hands. So yeah, that was fun, but I got a couple of sets of them in there. So, okay. So our 3 words are, I'll write them down on the screen so people don't have to continually refer back to the chat. So we got, Floyd de Barber, and what were the other? Ancient and Castle. So, and they're on their own layer there, so we can make them disappear and return. So I've got the pen the setting that I'm going to use, and just to walk you through this stuff. This is I've got it set really low. I'll set it much higher so you can see how the brush works here. Now it's a pressure-based brush, similar to how the Fudenosuke's work, right? And it's this. I got a hold of this brush to draw with from Scott Cirkland. If you haven't had a chance to check out Scott's YouTube channel, please do. He's got all kinds of fun tutorials on making comics, and in addition to that, Scott has done five fantastic issues of a series called The Young and the Dead. I'll have to show those on the stream, maybe someday, one of the days this week. But he also has a Comic Maker's Toolkit on his site that you can get. You sign up for his newsletter, and he sends you this Comic Maker's Toolkit. And inside of that are pens like this one, like brush settings like this one for your photoshopping and whatever else. And it's easily the best drawing setting I've ever come across. Anne's joining us. Hi, Anne. How are you? Welcome aboard. Anne is Anne's suggestion yesterday of Ancient is one of our 3 prompts today. So thank you for that, Anne. Okay, so with this in mind, I'm going to get rid of this layer here that I scribbled on, and we'll put a new one up. So I have my pen set fairly low, down, as far as settings go, because I don't want to be overwhelmed with trying to make clean lines out of big, thick, heavy lines. I'm keen on just, working lines and shapes up in the way that I want them to. And the point that for the size of the page that I have now, it is similar to the size of an actual pencil. So Dan's joined us. Hiya, Dan. Hello. Dan's suggestion of Floyd the Barber is incorporated into our 3 prompts today, folks. That's Dan. Whoops, not wrong there. And which layer is that? That's that layer. So that's Dan, that's Anne, and that's Paula. There we go. Okay, so back to this layer. So I don't know. I thought right off the hop I might just draw a tourist. Why not? Why not? Let's draw a well, let's start with this. Let's start with a barber. How's that? And he's on holiday, because then we can incorporate the castle and the ancient whatnot. So let's start here. And so I'm using the digital pen for drawing. I'm just thinking about, shapes and marks, right? And in the same way as I would the pencil. And of course, because of the eraser setting, we can take out erroneous marks and things like that. So there's no real difference between this and a pencil once you figure out the settings. Oh, Dan says, oh no, Dan made a suggestion. Look what you did, Dan. You did it now. You're one of us, the greater good. Hoorah. So let's give our barber character a hipster trendy mustachio. When Lori and I were first together, I had a mustache and goatee, and I shaved it off once, about 6 months into our relationship, and she said, "Yep, you're never growing that back again." She just likes the look at me without it. So the most I get away with is chin business. So, oops, I hit the camera and knocked it around. There we go. So as usual, if people have got stuff that they're working on that they want to talk about, you're more than welcome to do so. I'll tell you, bad leg. Dan is refreshing. Okay. Dan's refreshing. Okay. So here's our hipster with his well manicured beard, and we'll just draw. Oh, today's music of choice. I can always let people know what I'm listening to. Today is Life's Rich Pageant, REM. Or REM, depends on how you want to read it. Okay, so here is our cool kid. Give him some. One of the things that always sort of startles me when I see people drawing digitally is when they all have these same tightly wound, rounded lines, and with, where they really go out of their way to make sure everything has this, sweeping thing to, and it always ends up making things look like one another. And I don't think that's a benefit for folks, which kind of brings me into what we're going to chat about today. And again, as usual, when I'm blathering on, people are more than welcome to feel free to input themselves and their thoughts. But today I wanted to talk about authenticity and originality in your work, and looking at whatever it is that you're doing, allowing yourself to explore and express ideas and stories and your art as yourself. I know that we live in an age where there's a great deal of stuff out there that we all enjoy, and I'm the same. There's all kinds of creators and artwork that I myself enjoy. But when you're doing your own stuff, I really think it's important that you consider for a moment that what makes your art interesting is that it's yours. What makes your storytelling interesting is that you have something to say and you're trying to communicate and express that. One of the challenges that I have in what I do is that if I'm working on projects for other people, 9 times out of 10, it's not stuff that I would have done otherwise. It's not topics of interest to me personally, or it's not It might not even say things that I myself generally agree with, but when you're doing those jobs for others as proper projects, it's a job. You're not there for your stamp. You're just sort of being paid to do a thing. And you can, if depending on how big a deal it is. If you're working for a company, it's one thing. If you're working, somebody wants you to illustrate a thing and you don't agree with stuff, don't do it. That's the same with the company, by the way. Don't do something you don't want to do with them either. But sometimes a paycheck's a paycheck, and we live in times where, honestly, originality isn't rewarded. We live in times where everything is a commodity. If people disagree, feel free to shout it out. Let's work through it. But what I mean by that is that because there's so much import in monetizing everything, that people aren't going to allow themselves to give their creativity, their original idea, their project a real shake. And the reason that they're not going to is that they're going to make money or get more acceptance doing this other thing. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. If there's all kinds of reasons that people are doing stuff, and you can't criticize somebody because they have bills to pay, and they've got responsibilities to do. But the challenge becomes, and this is the authenticity part, what are our motivations? And I think that there is a fair degree of people whose motivations are really not fully thought out about what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And trying to think of how a person holds a camera. Bear with me here. Anyways, that's unfortunate to me, when people haven't given themselves a moment to figure out what it is that they're wanting to do or wanting to accomplish, and how they're going about it. And that's one thing, but why are you doing what you're doing? What's your objective? What's your goal? What's your sense of fulfillment? And if you're not doing something that falls along that track or follows along that line for what your objective, you're motivated to do, what's your sense of fulfillment, then I think it's important people reevaluate that. Now, bearing in mind, again, you still got responsibilities. You've still got some expectation of accommodating whatever your needs are, whatever your wants are, and especially if you've got more than just you around you. But at the same time, are you doing this thing, and are you doing it legitimately? Like in this case, it's doing work for others. Are you doing it legitimately because it's something that you want to write and draw stories, and working for others enables you to do so? But there's got to be a point where you've got to say to yourself, and if you do this on the side while you're working on things that are paying bills or whatever it is, or whatever your momentum that you take up to do it, is up to you. But if you want to write and draw your own stuff, you got to write and draw your own stuff, because you're not going to feel fulfilled doing the other. If you can do the other while working on your own on the side, that's great, because then you got both. You're paying bills, and at the same time you're getting a sense of fulfillment. Missing. Oh no, it's people saying hi. Hi, Chris. Welcome aboard. So you're being authentic in what you're doing. You're exploring your creativity. You're doing the things that need to be done in order to accommodate your life and the life of those around you, especially those that are, in your charge or, that you're responsible to. But, you're not going to have that sense of fulfillment unless you do still give yourself the time to explore the things that you want to say and you want to create, you want to make. And that sort of covers a lot of different roles, and a lot of different day jobs of working in related fields to whatever your creative endeavor is, or assisting others in their pursuits of their own. But at the same time, it still falls back in the same thing I say, and that is allow yourself the time for your own interest. Because then you're going to feel more enriched, and I think then you're going to feel more like what you're doing is has legitimacy, without second guessing yourself and doubting yourself. You're authentically doing the things you need to do, and at the same time, you're still maintaining your motivation, your own motivations for yourself. So the second part of it in my head, this is where things go awry, I think, is I'm the art director for a convention, and Thursday for a con here in London, a comic convention, and I try to help out with artist guests and the artist alley and all those things, and trying to get. Last year was really brutal for trying to get people to come as guests to the show. Next year, or this upcoming year, I've got some stuff lined up already, and I got to meet with the show organizers already. But I find that there's a lot of people that come to these conventions, and their objective is to do their own thing, their own project. Right on. But you look at their table, and almost the entirety of their table is other people's stuff. What I mean by other people's stuff is other characters and material that are licensed to somebody else. And I find that challenging. And the reason that I find that challenging is that if you've got your own thing that you've done that's sitting on your table, but you're overshadowing that with all of this other stuff of other people's things, your own individual project's not going to sell. Your original concept, your original work is not going to move maybe in the way that it could have if you had allowed yourself the chance to sit down and to just present your stuff and give it its own chance, give it its merit to I reduced the head down is what I just did there for anyone that's wondering. I circled it with a lasso tool, and then I control and T, which sort of blocks the marching ants on it, and then I can reduce it down by dragging the corner of it. So that's how I made the head a little more proportionate to the body. So a lot of people don't give themselves a chance to. It's hard enough to sit down and to finish a project. It's hard enough to sit down and to do all that it takes to finish your own work, and to sit down and have the diligence and the discipline to take the thing that you've conceived and to execute it in whatever way and put it on the table. That's a chore enough as it is. But in addition to that chore is, well, now you got to stand by it. And what I mean by stand by it is, when you present that to people, it does not necessarily mean that people are going to accept it. And that's hard. That's really hard. People might look at it and go, yeah, you got any Transformer pictures? And because that's what happens at cons. That's what happens at comic book conventions. And then the flip side of that, which is, well, my stuff is unique and independent and alternative, and they're like, okay, and they'll walk away. So, okay, that didn't work out. Those people that wasn't their interest. But then at the same time, you go to one of these alternative cons, and you'll present your stuff, and well, you're not alternative enough. So you can't worry about that. You can't. I've always said that my greatest fan is probably some random, and again, this isn't, dismissing the support and encouragement I got from folks here. I'm just saying my greatest fan I've probably never met yet, because they live in Indonesia in simpler conditions, and so randomly, somehow, for some reason, one of my previous books has ended up in where they live. And they love it. They think it's the greatest thing that they've ever seen. Maybe they haven't seen a lot. And I haven't met that person. But the fact that you do the thing, you allow yourself to express yourself. You allow your original creativity to come out and put something together, and you put it out in the world. Stand by it, right? Stand by that. Put that out into the world, and that random young lady in Indonesia is going to come across it one day, or wherever that person might be for you. Moms don't count. Moms are always number one fan. Moms don't count. But the reason, Chris says Indonesia, wow. The reason I use Indonesia is because it's so far removed from me, and which is, I'm trying to example the most random of conditions. And so, but the point is that there's somebody out there that's looking for what you do. And unless you stand by you've made all the efforts to create a thing, you've made all the efforts to follow through and finish that thing, and to follow through and to do it as best you can with it, whatever its merit is. Allow yourself the chance to then, see who's interested. You're looking for that random person that lives in that random locale, and they're never going to get a chance to see it unless you do that. So it's really tricky, right? It's really, really tricky, because it's hard. It's a lot harder than drawing the popular thing. Chris says, I don't really know where the fans I have come from, but they're not too many. Well, I think you've got fans. And then Dan says, you never know the pygmy tribe. You never know. Could be, some remote group in remote forest, but the standing by your original creation, your original thing, which might not be as polished as the other thing, the standing by the conceived idea that you have, or it's as original as you can be. I really love Star Wars. You're going to be influenced by your love of Star Wars, but you're doing your own space opera, which is distinctly separate enough from Star Wars that it's yours. You can tell you're a Star Wars fan probably, but it's because you got good spaceships and bad spaceships and all those sort of similar tropes. But you're standing by the thing that you've made all of that effort and spent all of that time doing, and that person's out there looking for you. But if you put that down on present that to the public, and right alongside that thing, you present to the public all kinds of fan art and pinups and products unrelated to the other, you're disservicing yourself, and you're disservicing, the opportunity of ever meeting that random person in whatever remote part of the world that you would never think that you would connect to. There are people that come into the stream here from, before I finish this thought, I've switched to a layer below the foreground drawing. I'm going to draw the environment behind him in a different color on the layer behind. So if you see a line like this go through the body, well, that line is actually underneath him. So I can allow myself the freedom of illustrating the fullness of the background, but I know that it's going to be covered up by his form in the foreground. Okay? And on with the jabber. So you're going to disservice yourself from ever having that chance to meet whoever it is that's doing whatever it is that they're doing, to find you, because you haven't stood by the thing you've made. And back to the hard point, though. Jim says, hello, Chris. Do you have the 3 prompts yet? Yep, they're up on the screen. But as always, if you want to suggest 3 more prompts for another time, you're always welcome to do so. Single prompt, 3 prompts, whatever it is, and we'll just put them in the book. Thanks for asking, though, Jim. Welcome aboard. So here's where it's hard. You've created your original work. You've done your thing. You've produced with your hard efforts, your labors, your thoughts, your bravura to put something together that you felt compelled to do, and you've sat down and you've executed this project and gone so far as to get some kind of copy of it, whether digital or physical or whatever it is, and you've put it down on the table, and you're looking for that person that's looking for you. I'm not going to lie to you. You're opening yourself up for brutality here. And what I mean by brutality is no one's going to come over and punch you. What I'm talking about is rejection. And what I'm talking about is the hard challenge that you need to be prepared for yourself to look at, others to come up and look at it and go, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, my brother's kid draws like this. Whatever, right? Or just general rejection. Okay? Jim says, prompt suggestion, karate. I'll write that down in a different layer here, Jim. Well, I can't because it's outside of the balloon. All right, I'll write it in old school. Pencil on paper, karate. There we go. Thanks, Jim. Hey, karate Jim I wrote down. I had a big Jim when I was a kid. Like Barbie, like $6 million man. Anyways, big Jim. He had karate. He could do karate. Anyhow, so back to the same proper layer. There we go. Rejection is brutal and it's tough. And this is the flip side of things. If you're going to go out on a limb and put your stuff out there for people to see, if you're going to go out on a limb and print it, if you're going to go and make all of those efforts along the way, maybe it's just a simple photocopy thing at a copy chain, or it's or you've printed them on your printer at home, whatever it is. But you've taken the time to take this thing that you've put together and to sit down with it and to make a copy of it, to do a physical aspect of it. And now you're taking that leap by going out into the world and saying, haha, here it is. If you sit down at the table and you've only got what you yourself have done, what you yourself have made, whatever the materials are, you've knitted owls, you've done whatever you've done, but it's yours and it's your own way of doing things. Like, let's say you're knitting owls, but you put text to the owls. It says owl across the chest. And very, very, nobody else is doing that. They're making owls look like traditional knitted owls. And you're like, oh, that's very different. But you've taken that time and that effort. By putting your stuff out there on the table, you have the chance of having somebody look at your work and rewarding that original creativity. You have the chance of somebody looking at what you're doing and saying they're doing their own thing. In art, there's the whole expression of so-and-so draws with their own pencil, right? Or paints with their own brush. And what that refers to in those traditional forms of art is they're not doing their best Egon Schiele interpretation. They're not trying to be Andy Warhol. They're not, while they might appreciate those guys and do stuff that, from studying their works, that somewhat reminiscent, when they're starting to produce their own material, they're going out in that limb and producing their own work in their own way. Well, if you cover your table in reproductions of Andy Warhol or reproductions of standard bird watercolors or the traditional knitted owl or macrame owl with a stick through it like everybody had in the 70s, whatever it is, then people are going to gravitate more towards these recognizable items of, traditional things that others are producing. And, the member berries are going to kick in. And I had one of these like when I was a kid. And they'll pick that up. And that's fine and well and good. But if you put those on the same table as you put this thing that you yourself have created, no one's going to look at that. And you're going to lose that opportunity for people to see the original voice that's coming out of you, your creativity and your expression. Because they're going to go for the member berries. They always are. And it's rare that, the member berries don't win. Now, this goes for everything. I mean, there's, even in, the Star Wars movies that came out recently, the first one, it's a remake of Star Wars. And it just casts different characters, but so many repeated beats are in the new Star Wars Force Force Awakens, and it's terrible. But the reason the second and the third films aren't as popular is, one, the second film takes this fantastic leap for trying something different, and the member berry people don't like it. So it's not going to be as successful as the first one because member berries are more important. And then the third one, well, they dive back down the member berry chain, but at this point, you lost them. You lost everybody. And in addition to that, there's all kinds of other problems that bothered them or annoyed them about whatever the whole project is. And people can also tell when things are done poorly. And when you've got a trilogy of films that flip-flop back and forth from member berry to somebody taking a shot and trying to inject some new originality and diffusing the member berry, and then for whatever reason that third film, it goes right back to the principle of the first one, the whole thing's not going to make any sense. So it's not just in craft work. It's not just in writing, illustrating, fabricating things with your hands, wooden ducks, whatever it is. There's all kinds of traditional stuff that we can do, and we can take these sort of templates that are, laid out before us from other people having made, let's say, wooden ducks. But the way that you finish your ducks is yours. Like, you might paint your ducks to be incredibly, eerily, realistic. Or they might be day glow colors with lots of patterns and things on them, and completely unsuccessful for convincing a duck that this might also be a duck. But it's taking that leap and standing by it. It's taking that leap to fabricate your own kind of wooden duck that allows people to come over, those people that you're looking for, that aren't just pursuing member berries, and to look at the original thing that you've done and the hard efforts that you've made and realize those and engage those. And a couple of them, might even be beyond encouraging and actually want to support that. Is it as rewarding and is that immediately gratifying and dopamine inducing as member berries? No. No, it's not. And until you have developed and built up enough of a group of people to look at what you're doing and to say, that's their thing. I like that because they do that. and I am a fan of that, and it's become its own thing to them. But until you develop that and build that up to an extent that you have that foundation, it's still not going to be the same level of reward, right? It's still not going to be the same as other people, hey, do me a, do you know the GoBots from the what are those, the 70s, 80s? The GoBot toys, do me a drawing of those. You're like, I don't want to draw that. And that's hard because that's all they want. They want that thing. Dan says, so the orange shag rug remnant may not be an option. Well, the hell with them. There you go. There's a whole bunch of people wanting to remodel the vans that they're inheriting from their folks that have been in garages for years, Dan, and they're looking for that orange shag carpet fabricator. The point, there's somebody out there, and it's not easy. It's not, and I'm not going to lie to you. I know that there's a great deal of people, especially on social media, that are like, hey, here's all the answers for you to be like me. This is me, So, and I'm at the point right now where I am still along that road where this whole doing a page a day thing for people, from people's suggestions on social media, this is all relatively new. Still, I'm almost at a complete first year of doing it. It's my second year of doing it overall. I did a book in 2021. So it's now 2 years. Yeah, 2 years, I'm sorry. And I did a book, one-page comic extravaganza. It was a comic format, and it's the same thing. But then I realized the limitations that I was feeling of drawing in that traditional portrait style. It's another comic in a comics market. People aren't interested in the way I'm doing things. People are either interested in manga or superheroes or emo gothy stuff or member berries. And so what can I do that allows me to do whatever I want, whatever way, and not have it be related to the other things? So I took the book and I turned it on its side, from the portrait format to the landscape format. And now I feel unencumbered by having to worry about anything else, because I can do whatever kind of stories I want this way, because there really is no definable type of story that produces books this way. There's a whole deal of books that have been published in this format, but there's no type, right? So it's just, we do these things to reward ourselves with the sympathetic magic that we need in order to do the thing that we want to do. And for me, messing up a piece of paper before I start drawing on it with, things like slap and dragging or jelly plating or just scribbling on it with a pencil before you start actually drawing properly on a plain white piece of paper, dispels for me any concern about making a mess, because I started with a mess. Excuse me. So we do the things that we need to do in order to allow ourselves the liberation that we need. I'm just trying to encourage everybody. You are liberated now. You are liberated, and your voice is important, and your creativity is important. And what I really hope for people is to be able to go for it, and to take that creativity and to produce the things that they want to produce without concern about, whether people are going to reject it or not, because people are going to reject it. Pardon me. Still trying to get my voice back. People are going to reject it because that's what people do. Not everybody likes the same things. Some of the things you guys might like are not the same things that I might like. That's okay. But what's also okay is still standing tall and doing your own thing. Take the rejections. Somebody looks over and goes, yeah, I don't really like this stuff. Okay, that's fine. And the reason that you have to develop that ability for yourself to say, okay, that's fine, is because It's fine. That person's not for you. That person's not for your work. I'm not suggesting that you're going to have to wait forever for the random example that I made of this young person who lives in a remote part of the globe that I have no idea how they would ever have come across what I do. But there's somebody out there, and you will find people that enjoy what you do, and you will find people that appreciate your output. It's just not that one. And let's say you do a whole weekend of a con and you sell 3 books. Well, that's an expense because you paid for being at the con and all this and producing the books. And what now? Go to the next thing. And because the next one, you might sell 5. You might sell 3 again. There's no guarantees on anything, but at least you know at that last one you did, you hit 3 people. You got them. You met 3 people and cool. You felt that connection. You felt that capitulation of the return, the appreciation of your efforts. And that's what you got for a while. That's what we've all got for a while. Nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's hard enough creatively to produce things. And then what do you do with them, right? You produce these works and you tell these stories and you finish these imaginings that you have in whatever way, and put it out in the world, and you're going to find some people that do it. It might take time. It might take a little bit of effort, but maybe they'll tell their friends or loved ones, and those friends and loved ones, might look at it and go, that's cool. Where'd you get that? And it might take a while, but it's just sort of still taking a little time to stand by it. It's not easy. This part's not fun. It's not immediate. And it's not, if you're looking for that endorphin, if you're looking for that, yeah, man, that's the best thing I ever saw. Well, that might not necessarily be what happens. So it doesn't mean, though, to not give yourself the chance to try. Because you don't know. You just don't know what might come out of it. And you're only going to find that out by going for it. So, I don't have easy answers for how to be this grand person who everybody looks to for their work and says, that's the thing. That's, that's this big success story. That's the guy. I can tell you all kinds of fantastic people that have stood by their work and been able to make their mark. Jeff Smith, the creator of Bone. There's a fantastic story if you're looking for somebody who stood by his guns and produced his work and has, from moment one, it's been his control. He's owned it flat out. He's published it. He's got all the returns on it. He's worked with printers and publishers, but it's always been his. And Bone is an incredibly strong project where he stood by his own voice and he worked hard to have it be a nice rounded and finished project. And it's something that, we've not just have our kids read it, but now our grandkids are being read it. And good for him. But that's a lot of effort. And he really had to stand tall to it. Dan says, hardest thing is tempering yourself from praise to the reality of the work. Do you think so? I think it's important that we temper ourselves from praise, but praise doesn't hurt us. Somebody looking at your stuff and going, yeah, I don't get it. I think stuff like that's stupid. That's pretty hard. But you gotta still, like Dan is relating to, is that you've got to stick to the work. You've got to allow yourself to be realistic and rational and grounded. And you are not yet the greatest creator of whatever it is that you're creating that there ever was. And if it helps you to think you are, do your thing. But it's important that we all stay somewhat grounded in reality, because, twice the pride, twice the fall, or whatever that Christopher, double the pride, twice the fall, or whatever it is line Christopher Lee says in a film. It's hard enough to put it out there. It's hard enough to get out into the world and say, hey, here's me and here's what I'm doing. And for people to appreciate or reject it in whatever way. But being rational about it and pragmatic about it and saying, well, here's what I got. I worked hard at it. This is my thing. And I appreciate you taking the time to look at it. And when they look at it and say, well, it's pretty good. It's not what I'm interested in, but good for you. That's good. You've tempered yourself for the rejection. But at the same time, enjoy that praise. Allow yourself to enjoy that praise. Don't get a giant head. So-and-so came up to me and said they like it. What about the 26 people that said that's not for them? Yeah, but such and such. It's hard. That's just as hard as anything else. Sensibility, common sense in general, rationality, seeing things in a greater context. Hard stuff. My wife and I last night were talking about some stuff that we're figuring out for having to market as project that might one day see printing. And one of the questions we had to ask ourselves from this marketing thing that we've been referred to is, who's my competition for what I do? Now, I'm going to let you in on a secret. I'm a nerd. And I read a lot. So I kind of immediately have a half a dozen examples of people that are also doing anthology format books of disconnected stories in small packages, because I've read a lot. They're very different from mine. It's very much their own stuff. It's from their own headspace. And I'll reference something like Asaf Hanukkah's realist books, and it's these flights of fancy that he has as a sequential writer and illustrator while living in the war zone that Israel is. And and talking about the experiences and challenges that he has of raising a family there. That's not related to what I do, but his flights of fancy and even his anecdotal pieces about his daily life is in small packages is similar to what I do. So that's a direct competition to me, although it's not necessarily competition. It's just another project that's similar and the same out in the world, right? But what's the competition for me specifically as a person who writes and illustrates books, and sequential books no less? It would be every other sequential book in a bookstore, right? How do I differentiate myself from them? If I objectively try to figure out a way to make myself to be different than everybody else, I'm not focusing on what was really calling me to do it. And that is, I want to express and create my own thing. And if it's my own thing, while there might be the influences and interests that I have might have influence on the project, it's still mine. We'll figure out the demographic afterwards. Chris says, hold on a second, I gotta reach over here to click it. I see that TikTokers and influencers who don't do anything of value, just sit in front of their phones asking for money, get more visualization than creative people, and that's unbelievable. Well, it's a little contrived. It sure is. But what value do they get is kind of how I look at it. What value are they drawing upon from that? or is there any value for them? Or is there any sort of sense of fulfillment beyond the immediate cookie, the endorphin release, the sense of self-worth through popularity, the sense of accomplishment through what skills and abilities that they have for reacting to something they've watched or whatever. And I don't know what influencers do. I've always thought it's a stupid term for something that's abstract, way too abstract to me. And I'm a tangible guy, so I generally don't understand the intangibility. Well, that's a fun expression, Dan. There will always be, there will always be carnival barkers. For those that don't know, carnival barkers are the person that stood in front of a circus or of a traveling circus or traveling carnival show. And they would say, step right up, ladies and gentlemen, come and see these things and come and see these audacious presentations that we have for you and thrill to the rides and join the hot dog eating competition, whatever those things are. And that's true. There are always going to be carnival barkers. There are always going to be these individuals that, well, what do they offer to the greater context of the circus, other than causing enough of a palaver and draw of interest to get people to come and attend it and to see the actual performers? Everybody sees the carnival barker. Are enough people seeing the performers? We can't control that. We never could. Even if you institute all kinds of legal aspects to sitting down and watching Star Wars and giving your perspective on Star Wars while you're watching it. And I know I'm referencing Star Wars a lot, but it's a huge pop zeitgeist thing, so it works. You can do that, but you're still boring. You still, let's change boring. Let's say unoriginal. There's no real reward or self-fulfillment based on unique contribution from that. And if that's not important to them, then that doesn't matter to them. Chris says most of the influencers are already millionaires who do live streaming, and they ask their followers for money to win something called TikTok battles with other influencers. I just learned about it. Yeah, okay. And power to them. I don't understand that world. I don't engage in that world. I'm really disinterested from any of these things, or these people that say, you want to learn how to make millions of dollars like I did, and they're standing in front of a bad painting of dogs playing cards in somebody's basement. Where's their authenticity? Where's their credibility? But we're not worried. I think that it's important to say we're not worried about those people. You shouldn't be worried about those people. Don't worry about the guy or girl in the booth beside you who's producing the general thing and getting all of this earned income from it. If your motivation's money, worry about it. But if your motivation is, the cathartic exposition of ideas, thoughts, and feelings through your creativity to be expressed to the world and shared, don't worry about that person. Don't care that they have sold 75 scribbles of Batman when they don't work for the company or draw for the company that makes Batman. That's fine. Draw your 75 pictures of Batman. Do your thing. But at the end of the day, those X amount of people, and I hope it would be large numbers for everybody, of course, but those X amount of people that come over and look at what you've produced and say, oh, I like the way you make that wooden duck and the way that you paint your wooden ducks, and the fact that instead of, feet, they've got a little turnstile rotor on the bottom of them for paddling the water, and whatever it is, there's a reward for you in that. And it might well grow over time with application to that. But it's not easy. And I'm not going to tell you fibs and build up false illusions about, and as soon as you do this, you'll be really successful. There's no guarantee of that. And because there's a ton of different factors for what makes that success level, I don't know all of them. I'm just naming my layers here before I get too lost. And I'll show you something that I've been doing while we've been chatting. Okay, so this is a challenge. This is a challenge by holding on to your authentic self and holding on to allowing yourself to express the thing that you want to express and to finish the thing that you want to finish and create the thing you want to create. And I think that when you do that and somebody else looks at it and goes, hey, that's great. If in the meantime you got to work part-time full-time at a variety store or at a factory or whatever, and you pay your bills, but then you get afforded an hour or so at night after your whole family's gone to bed for you to work on stuff, and it takes longer than the guy who produces 75 sketches of a character owned by a corporation or somebody else that has no connection to him, and he can do it all day long because he can afford that. I'm not worried about them. Do what you need to do in order to allow yourself for that enrichment of yourself, that feeling inside of you of, I've pursued the thing I was interested in pursuing and fulfilled that in some sense for myself, and allow yourself to accept where you're at. Encourage yourself to grow and to expand, but allow yourself to see what you're doing and embrace that. Embrace what you've accomplished already. Dan says these same people who struggle making change and can't start a campfire during the zombie apocalypse. Same people who struggle with making change can't start a campfire during. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, there's Max Brooks, the son of Mel Brooks, wrote a book called World War Z. It's Z. I'm Canadian. And World War Z is fantastic. I'm not a zombie guy. I think I can't stand The Walking Dead. I think it's just repetitive. And it doesn't matter. My assessment of Walking Dead is no bearing on your life. But I think World War Z is fantastic because he is harsh with himself and he is honest with the reader as he tries to explore and examine these characters that he's crafting throughout the story. And he keeps relating back to these characters and the challenges and growth that they have along the journey of the same thing they're all going through, and that is a world where suddenly those that pass away come back maliciously. So it's brilliant, but one of his ideas, one of his conceptions in that story is that there's a small community that has they fabricated this wall around their community area in order to secure themselves and protect themselves from, the roaming hordes of malicious, half-dead eating things. And when you go if you can find your way to that place and you go to the gates of that place, before they let you in, they'll say to you, who are you? What do you do? What were you when the world was still the world? I think is the term, some sort of reference. And somebody says, well, I was, I was a school principal. Oh, great. We can use some sort of structure for educating our children for the future because we're hope-filled and we want to think about our future. And what about you? I'm a carpenter. Come on in. I hope you got a hammer, But, well, well, what are you? Well, I was a lawyer. Good luck. Initially we're not interested in lawyers coming in, bankers coming in, politicians coming in, not interested in any of those things because it's just a different headspace. And I think influencers are the same. Where are influencers going to be in the World War Z scenario? On the outside of the wall. Because at the end of the day, what do they offer? And if you're a lawyer or a banker or whatever, sorry. But I think that, yeah, I think at the same time they say, well, well, I was in banking, or I was an accountant or whatever. And they say, well, can you push a broom? If you can push a broom, we'll let you in, but that's your job. And if you try to start the institution of financial exchange, you're back outside the wall. Brutal, but realistic and pragmatic in the context of that environment, right? It's harsh, but it's honest. And unfortunately, you'll see tribalism forming in those instances of reduction. So Dan's laughing about the lawyer reference. I don't know if you're a lawyer, Dan, or not, but yeah, push a broom. So, in that world, anyways, no, not any call for zombie tort law. Good for you. Yeah. And what are the three different elevated states of law in the zombie universe? Zombies, us. That's it. Don't be with them. Okay, so standing by your thing is hard, and standing by your original and authentic ideas is hard. It's rewarding though, because if you stick to it, and if you stand by what you're producing, and let's say your first round of things you've produced, whether it's the first page is your first book, whether it's your first round of wooden ducks, whether it's whatever it is, your next one's going to be better, because you've already done one round or one iteration or whatever it is. So you cannot help, as a learning creature, not to have improved upon it and streamlined a little bit and been more efficient or more effective in getting closer to the thing that you're trying to do. You can't help it. It's natural. It's going to develop over time. Maybe it takes 2 rounds before you figure it out. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Stick by it, and you'll realize that, as I'm sewing, my stitches are just becoming more and more refined. So there's great benefits to be had. Chris says, I will survive as a teacher, and I can crochet clothes. There you go. What is you're great. In the War Z, you're covered. There's a lot to be said for, well, referring to the teacher part. I think it's absolutely vitally important that you don't just and only just produce art for art's sake. I think it's important that you are honest and authentic and realistic and grounded and pragmatic in the world that we live in, and you maybe recognize that what objectively I want to do and what objectively I want to accomplish is being honest with myself and realizing that I might not be able to produce 1,000 things that all the people want immediately. It's important you recognize that. It's important that you're grounded and rational about that, because the more that you hold yourself to this expectation of everything working out and being perfect and being immediately rewarding and responsive and being able to focus all of your time on something is putting an awful lot of pressure on yourself and an awful lot of pressure on those around you and your responsibilities. So part-time jobs are important. Alternate forms of income are important. Scheduling your time, which just sounds like I'm sorry, but when people say, if you schedule your time in this fashion, I am that mindset that immediately goes, no, I don't want to do that. But my time is incredibly scheduled. And I realized organically the benefit of a scheduled routine. So, we live and we learn, right? And everybody progresses in our own paths, in our own speeds, at our own times. Anne says, I was a teacher and I can cook. There you go. You're covered in zombie world, Anne. Everybody, who would you be in the zombie world? Anybody that's watching the stream today, feel free to put down how you would fit into the world. And if you say I can push a broom, I'm just going to apologize for having lumped you into the group that's going to be left outside the wall. It says I can also build a fire. Right. Yeah, I mean, whatever it is objectively that you're pursuing, I'm going to take the blue out. Whatever it is that objectively you're pursuing for your sense of expression or for your fulfillment from expression, like if it's whatever traditional craft, traditional form of art or music or working with clay. Jim, who joined us at the stream, is an independent animator. He's an independent animator. He is working on a feature-length film on his own right now. Jim has done at least 30 or 40 projects in different lengths and stuff that are, some of them are segments of a larger project and the like, but this is his first set-down feature-length film in one go. And that's a body of work. That's a big challenge for oneself. But he's undertaking it. And then you figure out the then what's. You got to submit to the film circuit and the festival circuit and all those things. But the reward for him is the fact that here's the result that he's produced, and great. You did it. If you want to go on to the next thing or take a break or take up fly fishing instead or whatever it is, and the rewards that we offer for ourselves and the rewards that we offer for ourselves. Nobody says you have to produce, a bazillion things. Chris says a zombie world does not sound attractive, to be honest. Oh, for heaven's sakes, does it ever not? I can't fire a gun. Well, no. And in fact, despite what you see in film and television, they're incredibly impractical. Guns in the zombie world, because you shoot your gun to kill that one, 3 more have heard the shot, and they're going to come and investigate it. So, it's not in any way, shape, or form. I don't like the zombie aesthetic. I don't like the zombie genre as a whole because it's so bleak and it's so scary on every level, But aside from that, anyways, tangents. So, I hope Jim doesn't mind my using him as an example. And Jim, if you're still here, big props, sir. And if you are still here, and you got an upcoming episode of Hey Man, How's Your Movie Going, which is Jim's YouTube podcast that he does. Check out his YouTube. Let us know. So I illustrate, what he's working on because of the fact that he has been endeavoring towards these objective goals for a time and has had X amount of outcomes from that and products that he's produced in the sense of, and when I say products, I'm not just talking about the tawdriness of, well, it's a produced good. I'm talking about a finished result. And art used to be considered a trade, no different than making brooms. It just was. And, it's this aggrandized worldview that we've taken on art as a commodity and a value and some fantastic agent of social change where generally art is reflective of the world that it's within. So, and it isn't an agent of subjective change until it's utilized as part of real change that's happening around it. So I think that anything that anybody's doing is important to be celebrated and encouraged. That's why I always offer the opportunity for anybody engaged in the stream to feel comfortable to express what you're working on. I don't say that with any intent other than people are interested. The person, there might be another person that is engaged in this stream, whether it's live or whether it's after the fact or whether it's found at the bottom of a box in a basement in Tulsa, Oklahoma on a video cassette for some reason in 2062. It doesn't matter. It might, somebody out there in the world might discover the things you're doing and have been looking for you the whole time. So always feel free and allowed to say, hey, I'm making cookies out of ceramics to pull pranks on all my neighbors. Okay, you're making cookies, are you? What are you making them out of? What kind of ceramics? Somebody's interested. Also, that's not very nice. Anyhow, do you give them real cookies afterwards? Take them to the dentist? So feel free to allow that to yourself to be able to express those things and to say, here's the thing that I'm doing. And because that's might be the best marketing we have, is to be able to say, here's a thing that I've done. Here is objectively this thing that I'm interested in, and I'm trying to create my own story, or I'm trying to create my own music. And because the second half of that is somebody hearing it. So, safe place to do that here. So I'm drawing now, by the way, the castle that our holiday, our barber on holiday is looking at, that he's taking pictures of. I'm switching to his viewpoint for what he's looking at. Now we could also do that, a thing where we draw him in the foreground here, and he's got his camera up in front of him, and click, there's the little shot that he takes from his camera. He's got his big backpack on over his shoulder, whatever else, and his partner's right here with him, and she's wearing a big old backpack. And what do you think? It's Dracula's castle. Whatever. I haven't fully rounded out our story that far, but I'm just having fun drawing a castle at this point. And the reason that I've got the green layer and the blue layer, in addition to the orange layer that goes on top, is, and I've marked this out for myself, I've put the blue layer in full so I know where the outside edge of this frame is, just like I have the outside edge on that first panel. Well, now we have a solid established outside edge for the second one. And the reason that I've done that is so that I don't have to have this marching ants thing locked in it the entire time I'm drawing. So just to bring people up to speed on what is that guy doing. And I'm removing the blue while I'm drawing because it makes it harder to see the orange as I'm drawing it. So, but the green also helps me understand where the border is. And at the same time, I know that my drawing can reach down below the green because the first one did. And I've already set that precedent for myself that I don't have to be restrained into this space. Okay, so when I say to everybody out there that I'm interested in what you're doing, and what I mean by what you're doing is if you're doing something because it's trending, so here comes Chris, the judgmental lunatic. If you're doing something because it's trending, well, everybody else does this thing, so I'm going to do this thing. That to me is what I'm referring to in the context of sequential illustration world, where I talk about people drawing Batman. Batman's very popular. Cool. Did you create Batman? Did you invent Batman? Are you drawing a Batman book for the company? That's their licensed thing. That's legally their thing. You're not allowed to do that. But also, why? Create your own version of Batman. Make Batman a bad guy. And Mark Millar did that in a book called Nemesis. And they just did a big crossover series of all Mark Millar's different books, where all of the different characters and contextual worlds in each of these books overlapped. And they were all being put to task by his Batman as a bad guy character. That's interesting, but that's not going to happen if you're just focused on doing your Superman, your Spider-Man. So that's why I use the sequential art, the comics, as a reference. But if you're doing something because it's trending and everybody's on that bandwagon, it's no different than espousing the narrative of the day because it's the popular narrative to uphold. Allow yourself to be you, to think the things that you want to think, and I say that bearing in mind that, you're being rational. If you think horrible things, I don't care. I'm not going to support that either, but just because I don't like all those irrational things. But if you're sitting down and allowing yourself your own creative journey, exploration, and expression, it'll be far more rewarding in the long run. And it's going to take a little more effort along the way, but you're going to hit certain plateaus and certain points in that journey where you're going to realize, oh man, is this part of it easy? Come by easy because I've enabled myself the time and to invest in exploration of XYZ along the way. And so now that here I am at this point where I'm, producing the next iteration of whatever it is that I'm doing, just comes by so quick and so readily because I've done that growth part. I've made those efforts to labor towards being able to express myself the way I want to express. I've learned how to do all the play drums the way Ringo played drums in the Beatles, whatever it is, and give yourself a chance. And at least I hope you will consider it for a moment. And if you can consider it for a moment, then who knows what the outcome might be. That's about, my headspace on the whole thing. Allow yourself to explore you. Allow yourself to explore your work. Allow yourself to be able to find out what that creative inner voice is trying to say, and share it, and be prepared for rejection. But also, like Dan says, stay grounded, but be prepared for people to appreciate it and to enjoy it and to celebrate you and to celebrate what you've done, because you work towards some sort of capitulative response. You're not existing in a vacuum. You're a social creature. And as a social creature, wouldn't it be nice if there was some sort of social engagement with others? Never going to happen if you don't do it. Never going to happen if you don't engage with others and say, here's the thing I've done. For heaven's sakes, you might show it to somebody and they go, well, if you can just try to apply this and this, it's the new iPhone, whatever. I don't know. But again, none of that will happen if you don't listen to your authentic, original self. So that's about my headspace on that. I'm sure that there's going to be people that don't entirely agree and, don't entirely disagree, but that's fine. We live in a world, but these are just anything that I'm saying here at the stream tends to come from my own personal experiences and my own personal thoughts and considerations. As an old fart's been doing the things that I've been doing for some time and has made lots of mistakes and has made lots of wrong turns and left turns where I should have turned right, but did I trust in right? No, I didn't. So I turned left because left was easier. And now I wish, boy, what if I turned right back then? I'd like to save people from what if I turned right back then, if I can. I can't fully. You're going to turn the wrong way. You're just going to. Because that's how you'll learn what's going on the right. But if I can save you for some of those left turns, that'd be nice. Chris says, I'm selling most of the figures I'm making of wool needle felting. Yesterday I sold the Jack Skellington I made. That is fantastic to hear, Chris, and it's well-deserved. Those are really cool things that you're making. And even though, this is another example, Chris, I hope you don't mind. Even though these are, she's got a needle felting book that says, rabbit, and here's a template for that, or, duck. I'm sorry, I don't know what's in the book, but she's still doing her own, and she's still making decisions and directions along the way to make the things that she's making, not just this cookie cutter thing. She's making her own unique thing, and people like them. They're very cool. Check out Chris's. Chris joined us on our stream on the 20th of November. Check out that stream because she shows you the process of it. If needle felting is something you're interested in, she does a great tutorial on how she goes about it. And then, God bless you. Chris says, trying new things is good. And I 100% agree. So if I ask people to come and join me on the stream and talk about what they're doing, I hope people feel up to doing so and feel safe and secure that they can express who they are and what their journey is. It's been great having people on like Chris, and Jim's been on as well. I'm not sure who else is watching this point. I don't pay attention to any numbers or anything like that. So, but I'd like to hear what people are working on. I'd like to hear about your journey. And feel free to share that, because somebody else might say, oh, you're having a challenge with this. I had a similar challenge with that, and here's what I try. Maybe in some context that would be of benefit to you, but not expecting that, of course, you have everyone's solutions. Because who knows? Never find out unless we try. But at the same time, I think people are looking to see the things that everybody's doing. All right, so today's suggestion for the page is these three things right here. Dan's suggestion of Floyd the Barber, Anne's suggestion of Ancient, and Paula's suggestion of Castle are the three prompts that I have to finish this page today. This is the start of it, as we have the barber and his partner roughly scribbled in to be standing in front of a castle. So we've hit our first one in the first panel. We started into and this first one is also started into the panel, and by means of it being an old castle, it's ancient. But maybe we'll explore something even older in said castle, or an old idea, just for interest's sake. And a barber today is a person who cuts your hair. A barber in medieval ages in Britain, Scotland, Ireland, was also a surgeon. So you can see, I kind of like, how can I incorporate a barber going back and finding that out? So who knows where this story will go. I'm drawing in these three colors in order to understand the separation of this three separate layers. And like you can see in this first panel, and then I'll clean up the edges to fit within frames. But yeah, it's exploring and playing. I appreciate everybody taking part in today, everybody that did, and I appreciate everybody that joined today. That while they didn't join the chat, but they're still engaged in being here with us, and I hope everybody feels free to explore some of these things that I went on about. And when if you feel like sharing, I'd love to see it. Okay, and Chris says, "Wow, is it the barber thing?" That explains those English overbites now. Yeah, dentists used to be podiatrists. No, that's not true. Now you got a corn there. Open your mouth. Got nothing. Okay, so with that, I'm going to sign off for today. I'll be back tomorrow at 2. I'll get this page finished up and put out on Instagram and Facebook for tomorrow. If anybody has any one-page idea suggestions that they want to share, or they want to engage in, or want to see me try to make something of, please feel free to put that in the comments on Instagram, Facebook, or here. And if anybody has single word prompts they want to throw at me and see, and as we stack those up, the next one, the first prompt for next week is karate. And so you feel free to and welcome to put those in any comments as well. But thanks very much, everybody. I hope that I haven't offended anyone's sensibilities, but at the same time, I hope I've expressed things that is of some benefit to somebody. Okay, but I'll see you tomorrow, 2 p.m. EST. Chris says thanks and see you around, and so does Dan. Take care. You as well. And thank you, Chris, and thank you everybody else that came and joined us. I'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST if you feel like joining us. Bye for now.